Hello students, how are you? Students of 10th class, hope you are all studying well, and we are going to start one more interesting chapter, that is from history, right? 10th class CBSE history, and the chapter is the rise of nationalism in Europe, that is lecture number 1. So please keep a watch on what we are teaching here. This is Classroom TV and the website is classroomtv.in. In case of any other doubts and clarifications, you please log into our website classroomtv.in. It's a place for all your study requirements, all the materials and question papers, and also what we are discussing here on the digital screen. It is there in PDF format in the website. Just go and explore the website classroomtv.in. Okay, so here we are talking about the rise of nationalism in Europe. Okay, see, if you talk exactly, the moment we listen something about revolutions, we generally think about the American Revolution or the French Revolution or Russian Revolution for that matter. But we generally do not come across there are a lot of revolutions which happened in Europe in the time frame from 1848, in the year 1848. These are the important revolutions of Europe. So this was a time when nationalism was slowly gaining prominence in Europe. And why all this nationalism happened in Europe and what happened in Europe entirely, we will discuss in this chapter. Okay, so there was one important personality in this chapter who is in the first page of the chapter itself, Mr. Frederick Sorrow. Okay, Mr. Frederick Sorrow, in 1848 he was there, and he was just imagining and he was just visualizing and he was just daydreaming the entire scenario what was happening in Europe at this point of time. In Europe, it was all the time of turmoil, completely turmoil, because until you will, whatever you are seeing in Europe is complete a mess up. It is all a chaos situation in Europe in the year 1848, because so many territories which were under the control of monarch, and dictators, they wanted to free themselves from the chains of this slavery or from the chains of this monarchical rule, and finally they want to liberate themselves. So that is what they were doing now. Here during the revolution's time, there were people coming across the roads. People coming onto the streets. They were protesting, and you will see walls in the streets. They are pasted with pamphlets, posters, demanding for the eviction of the monarchs and kings. And they wanted ultimately by this time a democratically formed government. They are fed up. People are fed up in Europe. In addition to this, in Europe, there was not a good agriculture crop going on. That means even agriculture was a failed concept during this time. Agriculture was a failure. People were suppressed. People were not happy under the governments or under the rule of these empires, these monarch empires. So ultimately, people did not like this status quo. Whatever is happening in Europe, people did not like. For example, you talk about Italy. Italy was under the control of Austria-Hungarian Empire. They were not happy. And by this time, if you talk about French was also a not liberal state, not a nation state until now. Okay, you know, by 1815, there was the end of Napoleon Bonaparte rule, and after 1815, you will see the coming back of monarch once again. But by 1830, again there was a revolution, 1830 revolution, and again the monarch was made to run away forcibly. Okay, so from 1830 you will see series of revolutions in France also. Italy, the two Sicily kingdoms in Italy was in turmoil. France was in turmoil. Germany was in turmoil. So everywhere you will see revolutions happening across Europe. And these revolutions, the main aim of revolutions is to overthrow the present monarchical government and establish a democratically formed government. That means they wanted to shift from monarchy to a nation state. If I talk about nation state, there are so many things you have to understand. What is a nation? What is a state? what is a nation state and what is a modern state. So many simple definitions are there. You have to understand in the present session. So be little cautious and little concentration so that you will understand what are the important concepts for this chapter and for this session. The beginning of the chapter is very important for your short answer questions. Okay, so let us go and see what Mr. Frederick Soro was imagining. So as I told you, Frederick Soro was imagining and daydreaming. If you want, you also can imagine. I know what will you imagine. Okay, you don't imagine, but Frederick Soro imagine. He was imagining what was the situation, the fate of Europe during this time. Okay, he was visualizing. It is called as utopian vision. That means it might not never come true, but he was thinking in a positive perspective. Yes, this is how the Europe should be there, and this is how the Europe should turn into. Ultimately, there should be completely overthrowing of the governments. There should be people marching in liberal freedom and equality and fraternity going across the people. Number 2. Number 3, there will be complete peace and complete stability in the governments in Europe. So he was trying to visualize so many things, and whatever he was visualizing, whatever he was dreaming, since he was an artist, he brought everything, his dream, onto paper. Okay, he brought all his dream onto paper. This, whatever dream he drew on piece of paper, this sketch of him is the first photograph of our chapter in the first page. Okay, so we'll see what is that, and then we'll proceed further discussing all important concepts of this chapter. Okay, see, that is what. See, this is the lesson plan. We will discuss the French Revolution and the idea of the nation, the making of nationalism in Europe. You have to understand what is nationalism first of all, and why there is rise of nationalism in Europe. Okay, that is what we are going to discuss. The age of revolutions from 1830 to 1848. As I told you, 1830, again there was revolution, second phase of revolution in France, and again there was forcible eviction of monarch, and people are again asking for the democracy, republic in France. And you see the making of Germany and Italy, that is unification of Germany and Italy, visualizing the nation and nationalism and imperialism. All these are important concepts. We will discuss one by one all these concepts, and then we will try to revise at the last session of this chapter. Okay, that is what. See here, this is the picture entirely what Mr. Frederick Soro was imagining. We will try to put in a small piece of art. Okay, even I am an artist, I will try to bring what is this. Okay, for example, you think he is Mr. Frederick Soro. Okay, he is Mr. Frederick Soro, and he is dreaming certain thing. Okay, he was dreaming about what? He was dreaming about Europe of the time of 1848. Okay, 1848 there were series of revolutions. See, in 1848, not only in Europe, for example, you talk about the Meiji Restoration in Japan, there was some revolution. And for example, you talk about 1857 revolt, the Sipahi revolt of India, there was a revolution. You talk about Ireland, you talk about Britain, you talk about America, and you talk about any other place, you talk about German unification right from now. Everywhere, not only in Europe, across the world, there were so many revolutions happening exactly during this time, 1848 to 1857-58, these 10 years of time. So whatever this person who was there at that point of time, he was sitting in a garden and he was just thinking for himself, okay, this is how the Europe should look like. Okay, so here he is dreaming. We shall draw his dream, his entire dream, whatever he is dreaming, into a picture, right? So this is a picture entirely. See here, for example, this is the picture. Okay, so this is a frame. Since this is a frame, we'll draw like this. This is entire picture, right? This is entire picture. If you see here, here in this picture, the main personality will be standing here, she is called as what? She is called as the Statue of Liberty. Okay, the Statue of Liberty. Okay, this lady, Statue of Liberty in America. She will definitely curse me if she sees this picture, but you have to understand. You can also check your textbook also. She is Statue of Liberty. And what else will you see here? You will see a long train of queue. Okay, long march by people of different nations. For example, people of different nations are marching here. Okay, and they are marching in front of this statue. Okay, people of different nations are marching in a long queue train. Okay, so people of different nations are going forward. Okay, people of different nations are marching in a huge queue or in a huge train, and they are holding their respective national flags. Okay, they are holding their respective national flags. And here in this background, people who have already crossed Statue of Liberty, these people, they have already become by this time an independent nation state. That means these people are yet to become an independent nation, who are yet to cross the Statue of Liberty. And people who have already crossed the Statue of Liberty by this time, for example, America, by this time is already an independent country. Okay, see here. So, and here, after seeing this picture, by the flags they are holding in their hands, we can see that they are from different countries. Okay, by the costumes they are wearing, we can see that they are from different cultures and ethnic groups. And Statue of Liberty is there, people are marching, people are holding flags in their hands, people are marching in front of the Statue of Liberty, few people have crossed the Statue of Liberty. And what else is there? All this, what is happening on earth, whatever happening on the earth was visualized or was seen by the God from the heavens. Okay, the God or Jesus Christ from heavens. Okay, and all the angels or Lord Jesus, they were witnessing whatever is happening on the earth. That means we, according to Frederick Soro, he is Mr. Frederick Soro. According to Frederick Soro, I mean, little tough, the spelling is little tough. According to Frederick Soro, gods are also blessing from heavens, and they are visualizing and they are witnessing, not visualizing, they are witnessing what is there, what is happening on the earth. Okay, so by this we can say that the God and angels along with him, they are witnessing all this transition from monarchy, from autocratic rule to independent nation state. So here this entirely is called as autocratic rule. This is called as autocratic or monarchy. And here these people who have crossed, they are already independent nation states. Okay, so this is all one thing. And here, in addition to that, in the foreground, whatever you are seeing in the foreground, here, this is the ground, and on the ground, what will you see is that on the ground you will find all the trash. These are nothing but the crowns of the kings. The crowns of the kings who were overthrown from their rule, compared to a dustbin. All these crowns were thrown away on the ground just like a piece of rubble as a dustbin, because all these kings were already thrown away from their thrones. Okay, so here you are seeing Statue of Liberty holding in her hands the charter rights, the Bill of Rights, the rights and whatever rights given to human being. This is called as charter rights, which she is holding in her hand, number one. And number two, here in the foreground you will see all the rubble and all the dust and all the useless things which were thrown away after these kings were overthrown from their rule. Okay, that means why will you have kings now and why will you have thrones and crowns right now? So all these things are thrown away on the ground. Okay, so these are whatever you are seeing on the ground. These are symbols of absolutist institutions. Absolutist institutions means those institutions which signify or which symbolize the absolute power of the monarch. Okay, for example I am saying, okay, you talk about a person, you talk about Hitler, for example. He has absolute power during his time, absolute power. Okay, for example, any monarch, any king has absolute power over his territory or over his people, and he resides in a big palace. Okay, and he controls so many institutions under his hands. The judiciary, the executive, and whatever is controlled by him. So whatever institutions controlled by him and his palace and his crown, all these are absolutist institutions. That means these institutions clearly say that they belong to a monarch who has absolute power. So all these absolute institutions are thrown away on the ground. Okay, why? Because of the revolutions, series of revolutions happening in Europe at this time. This is the time of 1848, and he is Mr. Frederick Soro, and he is dreaming, and his dream is picturized like this. Okay, in this picture you will see everybody, all the characters of the movie are there in this picture. Gods are there, Statue of Liberty madam is there, she is standing tall here. People are marching in a long queue, in a long line, long train of line, and they are from different countries who are yet to see independence and who have already seen independence. And in addition to that, you will also see the rubble and the piece of dust which was thrown on the ground as a mark of their complete burial. Whose burial? The kings and their thrones burial completely. Okay, who did that? People did that. How they did that? With the help of revolutions they did. But ultimately we can say that was 1848 revolution as a series of revolutions happened in 1848. Did you find or do you find any positive outcome of these 1848 revolutions? No. 1848 revolutions, most of the revolutions were suppressed by the monarchs. Okay. So in this pathetic situation, Mr. Frederick Soro, he was imagining and he was enjoying for himself that this is not the way Europe should be. This is how the future Europe should be, where people will be marching in liberty and freedom, and this march will be witnessed by Statue of Liberty, and where you see that absolute institutions and all the symbols of absolute institutions are thrown away like a piece of rubble on the ground. And these people are from different ethnic backgrounds and different states and countries, these people, and all of them aiming at one single aspect, that is they want a nation state and they want an independent government and they wanted a democratically formed government. This is what the ultimate situation was. This is Frederick Soro and this is the picture. Okay, this is the rough picture. We will see the clear picture right now. Okay, see here, Statue of Liberty, she is holding Charter of Rights in her hand and people are marching. You see different colors of the flags. Different colors of the flags symbolize different nations, and these different nations are yet to see the light of independence. And here you see, for example, America, certain nations or certain countries by this time already became an independent state. They are called as nation state. They are still suffering under the control of monarchs. So they are marching in a huge queue. Okay. And ultimately when they are marching forward with a single aim, that they will overthrow and they will throw away the power of the king. Once they are thrown away, their symbols, whatever the symbols of monarchy, the symbols of absolute power are thrown away on the ground. You see how they are thrown away on the ground. So this is what, when all these things are happening, gods from heavens, they are also feeling very happy looking from top. Okay, they are gods and angels observing and witnessing what is happening on the ground, on the earth, right? So this is all about a picture which was there, which is there in the first page of your textbook. Okay, and if you see here, the dream of worldwide democratic and social republics, 1848. Why worldwide? Because not just in Europe, you will see in many other countries across the world, revolutions were happening. You will see in Britain, you will see in America, you will see annexation of Mexico to America, you will see revolutions in Canada, you will see revolutions, Meiji restoration in Japan, you will see revolution in India, 1857 revolt, and you will see the opium wars in China. Exactly at this point of time, entire world, if you see properly, not given in your textbook, but if you observe properly, exactly during this time, entire world was in turmoil, was in a complete chaos, was in a complete mess up. And you know, interestingly, the year 1848, the year 1848, and for example the year 48, or for example the number 48 in Italy, even now this number signifies, if you ask any Italian, just go and find out, come across an Italian and ask which number do you like the most, he will say any number except 48, except 48. Why? Because 48 in Italy, even now, it stands for complete chaos, complete mess up. That's a true fact. That's an established fact even now, not given in the textbook, but beyond the textbook I am saying. Okay, so this is all about 1848 revolutions. We will see whatever revolutions happening across the world and whatever happening in the textbook and important for the examination. Okay, so who is the person imagining? Frederick Soro was the person imagining, and this is all about 1848. Okay, the dream of worldwide democratic and social republics. Democratic and social republics. This was the dream of all the nations, all the countries of the world, ultimately after all these revolutions. Okay, this is just a dream, not a reality. Okay, why? Because Statue of Liberty will not come here. Okay, people cannot march in a long queue. People of different countries cannot march in a long queue like this, because it is all about dream. You can dream anything, right? If you want, you also can dream certain things. Okay, well, we will see, we will go further and see what happens to our dream. This is what is called as the Europe at that point of time. You will see the Italian, the two Sicily states, and you will see the France, you will see the German Empire, and you will also see the Austria-Hungarian Empire, Austria-Hungarian Empire, and Ottoman Empire here. So all these places, empires, are still ruling major part of the Europe. So people ultimately, they do not want these empires. They want an independent nation state with a democratically formed government. That is what is all about the revolutions, right? So we will see how these revolutions started, originated, and how these revolutions proceeded, and how these revolutions ended finally in nation and nation state. Okay, so this is what is important for our examination. See, he is Mr. Frederick Soro. The picture which I drew belongs to him. Okay, he should be happy with my picture, but let us see whether what he wants to say now. In 1848, Frederick Soro, see, this is the spelling, actual spelling. I was a bit struggling to write his spelling. You try to understand and try to at least memorize his spelling. Frederick Soro visualized the entire world, not just Europe, entire world he visualized, because ultimately he was a great artist, and he know what was happening at that point of time in entire world. Okay, because not in Europe, I was talking about something which was happening in Japan, China, India, Canada, America, Britain, everywhere some chaos was going on. So keeping all these things in mind, he brought all the different nations into one photograph, and by that for that matter, he also brought Statue of Liberty, made him also into the photograph. Okay, because Statue of Liberty symbolizes, and it clearly signifies the liberty Okay, see what else you want to put a single statue where you can talk about liberty, that is all Statue of Liberty. So this is his picture, and he was visualizing in 1848 the entire world situation. Democratic and social republics. People of Europe and America marching in long train. That is what I showed you. People of Europe and America marching in long trains. Personified liberty as a female figure, French Revolution. Okay, here you have to understand this female figure, that is Statue of Liberty. During the French Revolution, the liberty was personified, and the idea of liberty was attached to a female figure, and it is all about French Revolution. Okay, so personified liberty as a female figure, French Revolution. She bears torch of enlightenment in the one hand, and charter of rights of man on the other hand, in the other hand. Okay, so two things. Like this she is holding Statue of Liberty, might be like this or whatever. Like this she is holding Statue of Liberty, she is holding torch of enlightenment and charter of rights in her hand. Okay, these two things are important. Okay, liberty, rights and enlightenment, all these things in one statue. Such a great artist he is. Okay, and next if you see, what else is there? An absolute institution is generally a form of government in which all the power is vested in one authority or in one ruler. I told you that there are certain pieces of rubble thrown on the ground. This rubble is nothing but the symbols of absolutist powers of these monarchs. All these symbols, crown and all institutions were thrown away on the ground. Now if you are talking about what is absolutist, absolutist means the belief of having absolute control in one person or one ruler is called as absolute power. An absolutist is someone who considers that the finest form of government lets one person hold all the power. Lets one person hold all the power. For example, you talk about France, just French Empire, everything was under the hands of the emperor, the French emperor, Louis XVI, during the time of first phase of French Revolution, Louis XVI. Okay, so here one person controlling the entire form of government and entire authority in the country is called as the absolute power, and the person and the institutions called as absolutist institutions. Okay. In the foreground, shattered remains of the symbols of absolutist institutions. In the foreground, which is there in front of Madam Statue of Liberty, everything is there, it is all called as symbols of absolute institutions. People of world are identified through flags and national costumes. As I told you, people of different parts of the world, they have different ethnic cultures, traditions. That means they have different costumes. At the same time, they are also holding different flags in their hands. Different flags means they are from different countries. That means they are holding a flag which is of their country only, not other countries, of their countries only. Okay, different people, different costumes, different color and different flags. All these things are clearly seen in this picture. Not very clearly seen either in the digital screen, on the digital screen or in the textbook, but we have to understand, because we have to understand his mind and what was going on in his mind at that point of time. Picture may not give us all the things, right? That is what. And leading in the front by United States and Switzerland, which were already nation states. United States also fought a long-standing war with Britain. American War of Independence, 1775 it started, and in 1775 American War of Independence, and this is the time of 1848. 1775 already America got independence from Britain, and it is 1848. So who is leading the queue? It is United States of America, who already became independent by this time. So followed by Germany, black, red and gold flags. So you see that picture, and in that picture you find a flag, black, red and gold flag, that is a German flag. Okay, that is what. What else we have? Germany not yet nation state. Germany was still under the control of German Empire. That has to be unified into a single country called as German unification. That is yet to happen, not yet happened. So by 1848 Germany was also struggling under the control of an empire. So that is the reason Germany is standing behind in the queue, not yet crossed the Statue of Liberty. Following Germany, what else you will see? The Austria, Kingdom of Two Sicilies, the Italy, the Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary and Russia. All these countries are yet to see the light of independence. That is what. From the heavens, Christ, saint and angels gaze upon the scene. They were witnessing what is happening on the earth, and they are happy, and they are also giving their blessings, showering their blessings on whatever is happening on the earth. Okay, this is all dream that you remember. Okay, that is what. So many issues visualized by Soro, and 19th century brought sweeping changes in politics and politics of Europe. 19th century, mainly the second half of the 19th century, that is from 1840s, 1850s, you will see many changes in Europe after 1850s, resulted in the emergence of nation state in place of multinational dynastic empires of Europe. Okay, so here multinational, okay, multinational dynastic empires. Dynastic empire, that means each empire, for example, you talk about Austria-Hungarian Empire, or you talk about German Empire, each empire having control over many countries, okay, many territories, who are not ethnically related, who are completely different, geographically different, linguistically different, ethnically, culturally different, but these different territories across the Europe are under the control of one empire, Austria-Hungarian Empire for that matter. Just example I am saying. So multinational dynastic empire to multinational dynastic empire to a nation state. That means a nation state. Okay. So nation state means you have to understand what is a nation and what is a state. So nation is more of like a political entity or geographical entity or a sovereign entity. That means, okay, I am talking about state. Okay, nation is a kind of emotional attachment. For example, people of same homogeneous culture, tradition, races, if they share among themselves common identity, they can call themselves as a nation. Okay, state is a political entity, a sovereign political entity, a boundary, geographical boundary ruled by a sovereign power and people existing in that place. It is all called as a state. Okay, so now state, nation, and people are asking for nation state. Okay, during this time, if I ask you, is India a nation? Direct question, is India a nation? Can we call India as a nation? See here, two things are there. Technically, we are not called a nation. Technically, we may not, or we are not called as a nation. Why? Because, for example, you talk about nation, the definition of nation says that it's a mixture of homogeneous, it's a unity or unition of homogeneous people who share common cultures and traditions and common cultural past and have common identity among themselves. All these people can be called as a nation. That means it is more of a emotional thing, emotional. Okay, even if there is no sovereign power, you can call it as a nation because people have similar traditional and cultural past. Okay, but here in terms of India, we exactly saying we are not homogeneous mixture of people because we have different cultures, different races, different traditions. And if you talk about the northeastern people, they are from different race and they have different culture and ethnic past of themselves compared to South Indian people. You talk about South Indian and Northeast, entirely black and white, right? Entirely different things. Now how can you call these different people existing in India, and how can you call as India as a nation? Of course, India believes in unity in diversity, technically not a nation, but if you bring in all the different concepts, though we are heterogeneous mixture of people, we are all united and we have lot of diversity among ourselves, we are all culturally different but we are all emotionally united. If you see all these things, okay, you can call yourself as a nation, but technically not a nation. Okay, that is what. So here, what is happening here is that the multinational dynastic empires, the multinational dynastic empires are converted into nation states. Very soon you will see how they got converted because of these revolutions. Because of these revolutions, understand? Because of these revolutions and people asking for a nation state and also an independent sovereign government, independent, sovereign, democratically formed government. That is what people asked for, and that is what people went on a revolution, and that is what people achieved over a period of time, not immediately in 1848. 1848, when Mr. Frederick Soro was sitting in garden and imagining all these things, definitely that was not a good scene going on in front of him. Whatever was happening was complete turmoil. That means they were losing the match. The match was completely lost, and he started dreaming now, because there was no other way except to dream, because in reality everything was suppressed. Everything was suppressed by monarchs. Okay, that is what. So resulted in the emergence of nation state in place of multinational dynastic empires of Europe. Concept of modern state. Concept of modern state emerging. Centralized power exercised sovereign control over a clearly defined territory. Okay. Now the concept of modern state is coming. Nation is gone, state is gone. Nation state is replaced by modern state. Centralized control, that means see here, centralized power, exercised control, sovereign control over a clearly defined territory. Okay, for example, if you talk about India, do we have centralized control? Yes. Do we have sovereign control? Yes. Do we have particular geographic boundary? Yes, we have a geographic boundary. Do we have cultural past? Yes, we have a cultural past. Then we can call ourselves as a modern state. So that is what. So ultimately, after talking about nation state, now there is a recent concept coming up called as the modern state. Okay, that is what we will see now. So, but a nation state was one in which the majority of its citizens, not only its rulers, came to develop a sense of common identity and shared history or descent. This commonness did not exist from time immemorial. It was forged through struggles, through the actions of leaders and the common people. Okay. That means what shall we understand? We shall understand one thing, that is nation state is there, but this nation state is not there since time immemorial. That means that is not gifted by us, gifted to us by our ancestors. That is acquired by a long standing struggles, revolutions. We struggled, we fought, and we brought the nation state, not by somebody during the time of Akbar and Jahangir. Somebody did not give us nation state. Okay, not example I am saying. So it is not about history and past, it is about the present. Because of revolutions, you are seeing the light of independence, and you are ultimately getting what you wanted. What is that? That nation state. Okay, that is what. See here. Now an important cutting in your own in your textbook, you will see in a small blank kind of box, you will find this information regarding this person, Mr. Ernest Renan. Okay, Ernest Renan, 1882. Now he is asking what is a nation. He is asking what is a nation. He was invited to a conference, he lectured and he gave a speech, and his entire knowledge and his entire speech about a nation is written in this book, in this format, in 1882. This was brought into a publication. This was written by Ernest Renan. Okay, this is the title of that book. This is the title of that book. This is in French language. Neither you nor me can pronounce. You have to just see and enjoy. Okay, now we'll enjoy the actual content of this book. This is in English. We can study. A nation is the culmination of a long past of endeavors. A nation is the culmination of long past of endeavors, that is multiple attempts by people during our past, and sacrifice and devotion. A heroic past, great men, glory, that is the social capital upon which one bases a national idea. To have common glories in the past, to have a common will in the present, to have performed great deeds together, to wish to perform. Okay, this is all about this is all about nation. Okay, he imagined something and he talked about something related to nation. See, only one thing he is talking. He is talking about the cultural glorified past of the people who struggled to bring these these countries or these different territories into a single nation. Okay, that means he is just bringing into light the sacrifices or the fight or the struggle which was experienced by those people. For example, if you say that if you say that we are culturally united and we are having a rich tradition and we are emotionally united and we share a common identity, if you are saying all these things, one thing should come to your mind. What is that? The sacrifices which were made by the national leaders during the freedom movement of India. That is what. You are talking about nation, but at the same time you have to talk about the sacrifices made during that point of time, because of which this nation is established. Okay, that is what. And ultimately, a single line of all these things, a single line which summarizes his entire explanation about nation state is this one: its existence is a daily plebiscite. Its existence is a daily plebiscite. Plebiscite means what? It is an open referendum going to people, asking them directly what is their opinion. It's an open election. Okay, so he is saying a nation is an everyday exercise of plebiscite. We will see in the next session what is all about nation, nation state, modern state, and also all the other aspects related to different countries of the world. Okay, very important. Refer what is there in the textbook. Until then, see you in the next session and bye-bye.